Hi, this is Jim Lang, and I wanted to say why I put this information together for you, and it relates to my personal experience. When our daughter was young and she was a vivacious, happy kid, she was a STEM kid, very good in math, and she was headed to be in computer science, and she was thriving. And then physical symptoms started cropping up, and they got worse and worse. She was at a certain point unable to attend school. She spent most of her time in bed, and seeing it was very, very hard as a parent. I didn't really tell any of my clients or even the people in the office, partly because I lived it so much at home. I would come home, do you want to play some backgammon? Do you want to play a game? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to watch TV? No, I don't really feel good. And, it was I felt pretty helpless. And my wife, who was really the primary caregiver, she felt she does so much, and she still does so much. And we were actually looking for a solution to the physical problem. And we dragged Erica literally all over the country, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, when we took her to Minneapolis and we took her to California. We saw different specialists, and we got involved a little bit in alternative treatments. And we didn't really have a diagnosis. And it was just so hard to see your daughter in pain and suffering and not having the normal joys of a teenager, having friends and hanging out with them and going to school and doing the kind of things that a teenager does. And and then she did make it into college for a little while, and then she had to drop out, and all this was very hard. And I kind of almost separated my work life. This is before the pandemic, where I would come to work every day, and that was kind of my almost escape from being part of this world of a child with a disability. And it was actually semi-effective. I didn't even want to tell clients, because the well-meaning clients would always want to come in, or I imagined that they would want to come in and ask about my daughter, just being caring, thoughtful people. But I actually didn't want to think about my daughter at work, because it was so overwhelming at home. And of course, my wife and I's worry were, well, after we realized, okay, we now have a diagnosis, we don't have any easy fix, we don't see any path to our daughter ever being in effect well enough that she could get a job or she could support herself. And our worry then shifts to, well, okay, she's going to be at least not great, but at least reasonably provided for, both in terms of physical comfort and money while we're alive. But then what happens after we die? And as a parent with a child with a disability, this is our overwhelming worry in life. And my wife worries constantly and still worries about it. And she is, let's call it, both the emotional and physical caregiver. I try to do what I can, but there was another aspect to this, which is not just physical and emotional support, but what about money? Let's assume, for discussion's sake, that we think that there is more than enough money to provide for Erica while we are both alive. But what happens after we're gone? Who's going to pay the bills? Am I going to be able to accumulate enough money and maybe spend less myself, so that there will be enough money, whether it's outright or in a special needs trust, for Erica to be okay for the rest of her life? And that was, let's call it, my department. And luckily, I do have a background in what ultimately became part of the solution that I can get to later. But I realized, oh, okay, we do have a solution here. And Erica will, at no additional cost to us, Erica will be better off by $1.9 million because of the steps that I have developed. And by the way, these steps you don't have to be wealthy to take advantage of these strategies. Even somebody with $500,000, their child will be better off by $239,000. And I realized this information has to get out. I have to tell the world about this. I'm a proselytizer a little bit by nature anyway, not in the religious sense, but in the sense of if I can help people, it's my duty to do this. So we went to considerable lengths to try to put this information. It started out as a chapter in a book, and then we realized, no, this has to go much further than a chapter in a book. It has to be a special report geared towards parents who have a child with a disability, and we have to do everything we can to really help change people's lives in a number of ways. One is the better feeling that you will have knowing that you have taken appropriate actions to provide for your child. And then two, of course, the actual benefits for both you and your child by learning appropriate steps, and either with or without the help of financial or legal professionals taking the steps, so that you can do a lot less worrying, because that was, let's say, one of the great benefits for my wife is, and I'm not going to say that she doesn't worry, because she still worries more about the care part, and we're doing everything we can there, but the area that she doesn't worry about anymore is money after we are gone and our daughter's still around, because of the financial steps that I took, and want to get that information out to you. We'll do another video on some of the things why my area of expertise was particularly appropriate for the steps that we have, let's say, recommended, all the broad support that we have in the financial community, just many of the top luminaries writing glowing reports about this report, and some of the technical things that cause the report to have the potential impact that it does. Thank you.